When luggage maker Samsonite went public last year, its managers chose Hong Kong for the listing, arguing they saw the greatest opportunity for growth in Asia. Since then, soaring sales in the region have only added weight to that argument. Today, I spoke with Tim Parker, Chief Executive, who talked about life since the IPO, managing down costs to fuel investment, and catering to different tastes in different markets.
Last year was a fabulous year for us, and we registered over 50% growth in Asia, and mathematically it's almost impossible to continue at that rate. So it will abate somewhat this year to maybe 25–30% perhaps, but that will still be for us a very satisfactory outcome if we get there. And Asia is still showing immense sort of travel growth and people jumping on planes, trains and getting into cars.
And I see also that in Asia, in India in particular, you're pushing the brand in new directions. At the time of the IPO, you talked about Samsonite as a luxury brand very much, and yet in India now you're making luggage a bit more affordable, or Samsonite luggage a bit more affordable. What's the plan there, and are you worried about brand dilution at all?
Not especially. We've always had Samsonite, which is our premium brand, but where you have populations that are acquiring new wealth, they need to gain access to a brand which may not be quite as expensive as Samsonite. So, I think what we have to do as a large coordinated business is to make sure that we can offer a quality product to our consumer at a price that they can afford.
Are you worried in China about rising prices or about patent protection or intellectual property protection?
Well, just to take the issue of rising prices, there is labour cost inflation, there is commodity price inflation. We have worked hard to make our products smarter so that we can be more productive. We try to make sure that our suppliers have got full factories, which helps their economics. So, whilst there will be pressure, I'm moderately optimistic in the future. In terms of IP, we don't have a big issue with that. We get a few counterfeits, but nothing that really perturbs us.
Low-cost carriers have changed the landscape for air travel in Europe, and they're starting to do so in Asia as well.
Absolutely.
And I wonder how baggage charges affect companies like yours.
Yeah, well, it's a good reason why people want lighter luggage, in fact, is they have to pay. But another key aspect is that these days people try to take more and more with them into the cabin. And anybody who's got on an aircraft will be familiar with the scrum as you try to vie with the rest of your passengers to get your stuff in the overhead locker. And what a lot of airlines are doing is really starting to compress the dimensions of luggage. So we have to make sure that we can move with those sorts of changes. And that represents for us quite an interesting opportunity because people are always having to look at the scale and size of the luggage that they carry.
Absolutely. Now I wonder about the health of the aviation industry more generally, which is very tied to the economy, and Samsonite did struggle after the credit crisis and during the recession. And I wonder how you're preparing the company for future downturns, which are inevitable in some ways.
The credit crunch, we hope, was a ghastly affair which won't be repeated in the near term. And I think the general medium-term prospects for air travel, and indeed most forms of travel, are very good indeed. Where you have newly industrializing countries, people want to get away. It's something which is entirely natural to people. And I think budget airlines have really spurred on the availability, the quantity of routes which are available. So the outlook generally, and if you look at the forecasts, very bullish. I think, if you look at the major manufacturers of aircraft, they're looking to double the number of aircraft out there in the next 20 years.
In the past, you've talked about how much you enjoy working with private equity owners and how much feedback they can give you, once a week, twice a week chats. And now that you're a public company, or you're running a public company, I wonder what it's like talking to a wider range of investors with a wider range of needs.
Yeah. Well, I have run a public company before, so it's not entirely strange to me. And I do enjoy working with private equity owners, but I found it to be just as good a challenge, actually, trying to explain our company to a much more diverse range of investors. And the real issue is, how is the company performing? If the company is performing well and you've got a clear and a good strategy and you've got a good team, you can enjoy working with any shareholders.
Now, at the Automobile Association, your last position, you came under fire from the unions. And I wonder, I imagine you developed a fairly tough skin, and I wonder how that served you since then.
Well, I've spent a lifetime, I suppose, taking on companies and trying to improve them, and you get a few, buffets and knocks along the way. And my view is that I've always tried to make companies not just more profitable, but companies based on medium-term growth and market share gains. And I suppose the greatest source of satisfaction for me is that most of the companies I've left have done well. And that might be because I'm not there, but I think it's probably because the foundations have been laid. And that's in the interest, not just of the shareholders, but of the employees as well. So every company is a new challenge, but for me, the measure is, is this going to last? I
was wondering, you've done a lot of cost cutting in the past, and we've talked a lot about how to grow revenues at Samsonite, but I wonder also what you're doing in terms of bottom line growth here.
Yes, yeah. I mean, a lot of what we have really tried to do is save money, but also reinvest it so that we can propel the business forward. So we've doubled our investment in advertising and promotion. We could never have done that, I think, without making more room and lowering the cost base elsewhere. And the key for me is to create the platform for the future, which is partly marketing and it's partly research and development. So what we try and do is move the resources from less productive areas to more productive areas that create longer term growth.
All right, Tim, are you ready for long, short?
I am indeed.
All right, let's start. First, an uptick in business travel.
Long.
Growth in Asia.
Long.
A soft landing in China.
Pretty long.
Technocratic governments.
Quite long.
A two-speed euro.
Long.
Excess baggage fees.
Short.
Budget airlines.
Long.
Long-haul budget airlines.
Very long.
Celebrity luggage brands.
Short.
A third runway at Heathrow.
Short.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.